Now I have a primary focus on our tech partnerships. So if you guys have any questions after the talk related to kind of programmatic use of our API or how you integrate more closely with MailChimp, I'm more than happy to take any of those questions. So, again, really excited to be here and really excited to support the Magento community here within Singapore as it continues to grow. So just a quick look, some of the things that we're going to talk about. I know we only have a half hour and it's kind of really difficult to figure out what you want to chat through in that time, but we're going to look at how kind of MailChimp is enabling agencies, and for those of you that are custom kind of solution implementers or people that are handling all of the digital marketing for your clients, kind of how you can look into some of those features. I want to talk about why it's important to automate. We heard on Nicholas's talk earlier about kind of getting ahead of that curve and understanding where maybe some of your customers are or some of your potential prospects are, but looking into why we'll do that. How to leverage and build your brand more effectively through both email and then as well ads. Driving that customer loyalty. We heard a moment ago that if you can implement kind of streamlined processes, you can really keep those customers for a long time. And then as well, bringing folks back. And as well, what's new at MailChimp, because we are continually developing our product and processes. So with that being said, how many folks in the room are actually working for a creative agency, maybe an in-service digital house or anything like that? All right, got a handful of folks. Awesome. So this is for you then. So how many of y'all are actually using MailChimp? Handful? This is awesome. Thank you. I love my job. I get to come to Singapore. Please don't churn. So for those of you that are agencies, I wanted to just take a quick call to action here that if you're actually in your account, to head to your account settings page and to go ahead and flag this little checkbox that says, yes, I am an agency. The reason being there is that if you're working with multiple clients, it's going to make it a lot easier to manage all of your client information from a single dashboard versus kind of maybe trying to share logins or managing them all through multiple lists or however you might be doing it now. So just a quick call to action there. The other reason why that is as we start to look with how we take this global strategy in terms of how we participate and work with local markets. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia. We've got 1,000 folks in the States. We actually don't have any international offices, so we can't be everywhere all the time. So what we'll do is we'll look into our system and say, okay, there might be a Magento event in this area. How do we identify potential agency partners that are familiar with our system, and then maybe work more closely with them so that they can better get leads and opportunities, and then as well showcase their expertise. So I just wanted to call attention to that really quickly. How many folks are actually leveraging email marketing as part of their collective marketing strategy? Okay, a few. How many folks are not doing any email? Okay, great. So I'm glad somebody's doing something there. The reason why I wanted to ask that out is that we know from our research and just about any statistics that you find on the internet, you'll generally see that for every $1 you invest in email marketing, you can expect about a $45 return on that initial investment. That is a great ROI component. We know it's that high because you're not competing with everyone else on the internet for eyeballs. You're in the inbox. It's a very personalized experience. Those people want to hear from you, and you don't have to compete on that same way, again, with everybody else that's kind of out on the internet. So one of the things that Nicholas talked about, and then our actual friends from Mailer and Rohan will actually talk a bit about later, is making sure that you're getting the right message to the right folks at the right time. And we believe that the best way to do that is through leveraging any automation tool you can. We've obviously put in a lot of effort to rebuild our entire automation workflows, but the whole reason there is that you are running a business. You can't try to segment your list every single day, do a single email list. You're going to alienate people by over-emailing, and it's just frankly too repetitive. So setting up those automation components, while they may take a day or a couple hours to do at the beginning, you're really going to save yourself a ton of time in the back end by doing that stuff. So again, whether you're on MailChimp, whether you're on a Mailer, a GetResponse, whatever it may be, look at what your automation workflows are to make sure that you are taking that time to eliminate those repetitive tasks. And then again, having this whole notion of this customer journey that Nicholas talked about. So if people are coming to your site on Magento, they're buying from you. What are those next touch points? You know, do you have an opportunity to have this personalized experience to create these conversions that might not have happened in the past? So I'll talk about it in a little bit, but one of the things that I've noticed with our user base, and this is probably true across the board, I don't have access to our competitors' data, but we have generally seen that for folks that are setting up just a basic welcome series with their email automation platform, generally convert more highly than anything outside of the abandoned cart email component. So just something to keep in mind, if somebody's coming up to your site, if you've got a long sales cycle, maybe you have a lifestyle brand, think about that personalized experience, that customer journey, and try to figure out how do we get these folks more information in a way that's maybe not just a transactional sell. Let them build the brand and let them be that advocate for you. There's a small mom and pop clothing store in the States that comes to mind. Husband and wife, they had a newborn. Apparently that's the international symbol for a newborn. And what they did is they said, you know, these kids' clothes are just too doggone expensive. We need to do our own. They created this little site. They put it together. Their welcome email series alone just gives a basic introduction of the husband-wife team, talks about the motivation for the brand, why they created their business, and that single 3-email series that invited them to follow them on social media, et cetera, has already made them north of 6 figures. They set it up one time. They started it. I think they've edited it twice over the course of 2.5 years, and it is actually their main driver for conversions on email. So again, just something to think about as you think about that personalized experience. Another thing that I love to talk about, I'm sorry, this is a subtle plug. MailChimp used to have a paid feature that was the automation component. We recognize that for small businesses and medium-sized businesses to grow, you know, we know that they're all cost conscious. We decided to make that free with the whole idea of saying, come in, check out our platform, grow your business, see success, and the hope is that if you have success with us over the long term, you'll stay with us and be more successful. So, all right, that's my shameless plug. How many folks are working on lifestyle brands? Anything? Clothing? Okay, a couple folks. Thank you for your participation. I really hope you are. If not, your pity hand raises are great. So I wanted to talk about kind of this notion of pop-up forms, right? Is anybody using them? No? Okay, great. You should. They can be a bit of a nuisance if they're done improperly. However, sign-up forms are an incredible way to grow your list. If they are done successfully and done thoughtfully, again, thinking about what Nicholas was talking about earlier with this whole notion of the customer journey, what's that personalized experience? We've actually seen instances where those lists have increased by more than 50%, and that's just with our basic pop-up form builder. You can look at any number of third-party solution like a Privy, a Wise Pops, 40 Nuggets, whatever it may be, and you can start getting into a lot more targeted technology. So did the site traffic come from Facebook? If so, maybe show them a thanks for checking us out on Facebook promotion, give them the pop-up form. If they're a repeat visitor, don't show it. You know, don't show it on the instant load. Make sure that you're giving people an opportunity to maybe get below the page break in the fold. And the whole reason there is it all goes back to the customer experience. Nobody likes to get on a site and then immediately be hit with that pop-up and you don't even have an opportunity to see what they're doing. So think through what you're doing with regards to your list growth, how you're collecting leads. There's not a hard set stat that I've seen in terms of list churn and kind of list health in terms of the degradation of a list. Generally speaking though, when I talk to marketers, we see that on average, you want to be getting between 8 and 10% list growth a month to help combat against people that are no longer engaging in your email marketing, people that are unsubscribing, and frankly, emails that are just kind of no longer valid. So just something to consider. If none of you are using those, I would highly recommend implementing them because they can be very effective in growing your list. And another way to continue building your brand is obviously by pushing out these ad campaigns. So we've had several people come by and ask us about email marketing as a strategy combined with social advertising. This is a must-do. You have to now. Somebody told me earlier that swung by that said that there's 42 million users of Instagram in this region alone. For those of you that are selling lifestyle brands, even physical products like servers, IT equipment, whatever it may be, that photography goes so far. And then now with Instagram shoppable features, you can really target those people, promote whatever that brand is, whatever that unique journey or that value add is, right? Really get that whole perception and process throughout the entire way. And then help convert those sales with their shopping components. So, we've looked at pop-up forms. We understand that they drive a lot of value. We know that social posting and going on various channels there allow you the opportunity to continue those touch points outside of the inbox. The beauty as well is that you can then take your existing email marketing list, upload it into Facebook or Instagram and say, find me similar customers, and what they'll do is they'll look at your existing list, they run their magic AI, and then they'll actually look at those similar customers, advertise there. So it's a great way to get into more eyeballs for people that are likely to buy versus just doing a upload my list, tell me if you find something. So please make sure that if you are advertising on these channels that you are leveraging those feature sets. So then that way you can get more email addresses, better email marketing, and then hopefully that $45 for every $1 invested maybe turns into $60 or $100. How many folks are using dedicated landing pages? A couple folks? Great, awesome. I like this side of the room. You guys are really participatory. I really appreciate that. So one of the things that we recently launched was this whole notion of landing pages. If anybody ever used a hosted sign-up form for MailChimp, it was not pretty at best. You would have to really get in there, do some custom coding, and we looked back and we said, wait a second, we have this great email editor, it's drag and drop, we've got this notion of hosted sign-up forms, why aren't we leveraging the two to help people grow their lists? So we combined them, and the whole notion for us was to say, you've got beautiful content, you've got stuff that you want to talk to your users about, and maybe that pop-up form isn't converting, so maybe you take a social ad, drive them to a landing page, allow them an opportunity to sign up there and get more information. So now you've got this more of this user journey through the funnel that I learned today was designed in 1898. So just think about that as a whole with regards to what that user journey is, how they're looking through everything, and what that does. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, we're trying to boost that customer loyalty, right? You get somebody that comes in on a single transactional process, they come in once, they're gone, nobody really wins there. So that's why I would highly recommend looking at doing these things like this welcome back or the welcome email series that I mentioned before, right? So getting somebody in the door, telling them more about your brand, why did you want to do the things that you did, why did you start the business, and hopefully drive more to those orders. As I mentioned before with the individual mom and pop seller, they had a massive uptake in the 6 figures of sales long term. As I mentioned before, outside of abandoned cart emails, these generally will convert to about 5 times more orders than your standard bulk marketing emails. They've already come to your site, they've signed up, they've showed that intent and that interest. So make sure you're following through and giving them the information that they're hopefully looking for while you have their attention. I think nowadays it says that if your site doesn't load within 5 seconds or you haven't caught someone's attention in that time, you've pretty much lost them. So make sure that while you've got your attention, you've got an opportunity to capitalize on that. Oh, this is always a good one. How many folks are actually segmenting their list based on the total number of purchases or the total amount spent? Nobody's doing it? Why is that? Haven't thought about it? Maybe? Get one takeaway, this is what it is. Look at your data. If you're working with Magento, you can obviously pull in all of that stuff out of the back. If you're working with MailChimp, it's all segmented in there so you can do it accordingly. Look at things like total number of purchases in the last 6 months. Have people spent over X amount of money there? You don't want to necessarily be sending coupons to these people that are abandoning carts like Nicholas said. I'm guilty of it. I love gaming abandoned cart systems because I know it's going to come. But if I frequently shop at a site, I don't often get rewards for being a long-time customer. And it's a bit frustrating at times because I know for a fact I've spent a fair amount of money with a particular brand. So think about that. Are you rewarding the long-time customers or are you rewarding the people that came to your site and haven't bought anything? So think through what that is. what is that value that you want to provide to those people that are quite frankly keeping you in business, and make sure that you are implementing those things. This is just a basic example of saying, hey, do 20% off. I obviously don't know what all of your profit margins are. Some people are a little opposed to this. If you're running a loyalty brand, they're afraid that if we issue discount codes that you're going to devalue the brand. So maybe you don't offer the discount code off the product itself, but think through free shipping, or an add-on item that's a special gift for the next purchase, whatever it may be, so that way you don't potentially devalue the perception of your brand and what that might be. All right, how are you guys bringing people back? Re-engagement campaigns, you're not segmenting your list by most engaged people. Do you segment your list by people that haven't shopped in a while? So it's cheaper to keep the customers that you have than it is to find new ones. So bring them back with those abandoned cart emails like Nicholas said. You don't have to put in those discount codes that we talked about if you don't want to. This slide is a little tough to see, I apologize. But what we have found with our own internal research is that if you're doing an abandoned cart series and not a one-off campaign, it actually converts 36.9 times. I did not create that stat. I can only repeat it. So if you have questions, I can point you to the research team. Outside of that, the single abandoned cart email does well. Doing things like date-based campaigns, so your birthdays, your anniversaries, whatever they may be if you're doing a yearly subscription basis. Keeping that in mind, triggering off those dates is a great way to convert. And then as well, we get into things like, if you bought a specific product, follow up on the time of purchase. So I actually sat down and talked with an outdoor retailer, and they sold really high-end tent equipment. I did not realize that that was a super big market, but apparently tents will sell for like $1,000. And so what they did is they said, if somebody buys a tent over X number of dollars, automatically send a follow-up email series that talks about the proper care and maintenance for the tent. So then that way they're buying the product, they're getting a good quality thing, and then they have an opportunity for those touch points of customer service. So these people can now take care of the product that they bought. If I were to buy a tent, I would have no idea how to take care of it. If anyone is selling leather goods, this is a great thing as well. Shoes, making sure that they're being properly oiled, taken care of, cleaned. These are little strategies that you can implement with simple follow-up emails based on a product that's been purchased to try to get these people back in the door to be long-time customers and making sure that they're taking advantage of the information that's available to them. Is anybody leveraging a product recommendation tool? All right, cool, this is great. So if you are on MailChimp, we do have a built-in feature that will actually bring in all of your Magento customer data and actually start recommending products based on whatever they may be. So in something like this, you can simply just drag and drop a block into the editor. Again, we'll look at everything that's been purchased and we'll say, great, maybe you might like this t-shirt or those socks or whatever they might be. And again, it's all about trying to get people back into the site based on an abandoned cart email, the post-purchase follow-up, whatever it might be. And quite frankly, product recommendations is a hell of a way to get people in the door to buy stuff that they maybe haven't looked at before because they haven't thought that the two potentially go together. Is anybody here using Google remarketing ads? Following people around the web, right? You looked at a pair of pants on one site and then you can never get rid of it. I had a friend who was looking to get engaged and he was looking at engagement rings. And then his girlfriend opened up his laptop and then there was the ring following her browser. So the surprise was up, he was busted. We love Google remarketing ads because it allows small business owners, medium-sized business owners that are maybe a little intimidated by this whole notion of Google Analytics and Google AdWords, come into MailChimp, target your customer list, implement these on your site in a way that's really, really simple and easy. It's something that we heard a lot about from our users because they said, we understand email marketing, but we don't know how to advertise more effectively. For those of you that are maybe running businesses that are a bit smaller, you're not 100% on kind of how to implement these solutions, come by, talk to us. We can kind of walk you through what some of that would look like. And then as well, I would also recommend talking with the team that organized everything as they're able to help kind of with these more advanced solutions if you need something that's along those lines. So For those of you that are existing MailChimp users and those of you that are existing marketers, you've probably heard of a 4-letter word that is probably not allowed to use in your house, and that is GDPR. How many of you have pulled out all of your hair worrying about GDPR? Yeah? Some kind of like, some bad grins, some bad laughs. I always joke that if I had like a little toddler and they came in the house from school screaming GDPR, I would ground them and take away their iPad. But this is something that we've been working really hard on implementing, and it's something that if you are selling outside of this region, you think you have customers in Europe, pay close attention to this stuff. We've tried to make it easy to make sure that you're fully GDPR compliant by introducing things like, the marketing permission text up there, allowing people to opt in for whatever their specific channel is, doing things like the data management tools. So if you have a customer that reaches out to you that says, delete my data, you can rest assured knowing that whatever marketing platform you're using should hopefully be deleting that as they should. And if anybody is programmatically working with MailChimp, we do have GDPR compliant API endpoints, so then you can delete folks programmatically. Again, you don't have to worry about going into that UI and knocking it out. Helps build trust with your users to let them know that you're going to safeguard their data in a way that maybe you weren't thinking about before. For those of you that are on the go, we've been putting a lot of hard work into MailChimp Mobile. So if you're constantly on the move, running between meetings, and you need to get to your marketing deadlines, making sure that, if you are on MailChimp, using MailChimp's mobile app so you can check reports, send emails, set up automation, run ads if you need to. If you are not on MailChimp and you're using another solution, talk with the solution provider to make sure that they might have something similar. What we have found is that if an agency or if you're in a meeting, people are constantly asking, as the gentleman said before, are we hitting these targets? We maybe don't want the KPI specifically, but we want to know holistically how we're doing. This is just a great way to pull up those stats quickly in a meeting to let folks know how you, the marketers, are helping to drive the business and help implement some of these solutions. For those of you that are maybe selling or working with smaller components, we've introduced a new tag feature as well, with the whole notion so you can be more efficient in how you segment, more efficient in how you target, things along those lines. If you are working with another provider, I would highly recommend looking into seeing if they have like dynamic segment components. So as people are coming in from your Magento store or any of your other marketing channels, they can be tagged appropriately, put into a segment that you can more easily market towards, and really try to build your brand in a way that takes less effort from your marketers, who can really begin to focus on what they should be doing in terms of growing their particular business. So I also love this quote because we've been asked for it for years, and this guy finally got it. So yeah. So for those of you that are doing digital marketers, we'd also like to invite you to take a look at what we're doing as well with postcards. So looking at things like not only the digital marketing component and targeting folks via email, Google remarketing ads, et cetera, we've actually realized that everyone's going digital, and yet there's this kind of wonderfully old niche of postcards and that kind of direct mail and offline advertising that folks maybe haven't thought about in a long time. So this is kind of a new way for you to reach new customers. We are still very much so in a beta phase, but the whole notion would be able to do something like abandoned cart postcards, reaching people in a way that they hadn't thought of before, versus maybe dealing with all the clutter that potentially could be in an inbox, or in terms of like the Google remarketing and following people around. So that's just something to consider is, what is your marketing strategy? Are you incorporating direct mail into it? How does it complement your digital strategy, much like Nicholas said, to make sure that these things aren't siloed, they are working together in this collective, cohesive way. And at the end of the day, it's all about bringing your ideas to life, right? So whether you're looking at landing pages, email, ads, whatever they may be, think about it in that customer journey, that funnel, right? So are you getting people in a social ad to go to a dedicated landing page to sign up, get more information, and then from there move them over to email, which we know is a very collective and profitable channel? As I mentioned before, Rowan from Mailer is going to talk about this a bit later, but it's all about contacting the right customers at the right time and the right channels with the right messaging. So with that being said, thank you so much. Is there a way to integrate MailChimp with LinkedIn? Not at this time. We have been trying to understand if LinkedIn is going to be a viable ad channel. We've actually recognized that most of our businesses have requested the social side, but from time to time we do see it, and we are actively looking to figure out, will it help our users as a whole, or kind of where it sits on some of their smaller business strategies. My understanding is that you can use a tool like Zapier to try to connect the two and then pull data across, but I'd have to look into that a little bit further if you want to swing by and we can chat a bit more. Okay, that's great feedback. Thank you. Does this make me a thought leader if I walk across the stage? I'm like, yeah.
Thanks. I have a quick question. When you mentioned programmatic API with MailChimp, and you showed Google, for example, on the remarketing ads, is it primarily on the display network or is it on DoubleClick?
So using our API, we don't have a direct way to come in through MailChimp's API to then re-push out to Google, but anything that you're trying to do in terms of syncing product data, customer data, opt-in permissions, deleting people, creating those segments targeted or not based on the information you might have in another data source, you can all do that programmatically. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have a way to programmatically create ads. I believe it's on our roadmap, but unfortunately not at this time. So you'd have to do it all through the interface. You got it. Cool. All right. Oh, one more in the back.
Hi. So what do you think about GDPR? So even countries outside Europe should try to implement it, because eventually some kind of rules may follow to all of us.
Yeah. So the question is what do I think of GDPR for outside the Europe?
Yes. What I mean is should the companies outside Europe also should implement GDPR?
Yeah. So that's a great question. Is if you're not selling in Europe, you're not in Europe, should you really consider implementing a way that is compliant with the new rules? If you're not selling to Europe, I'm not an attorney, so this is not pending legal advice. You might not have to worry about it too much if you're strictly focused on Southeast Asia. The concern is that if folks are selling internationally and that somebody from Europe does visit your site, signs up for it, you technically now have this European citizen's data and you are beholden to it. If that one person complains, the EU is saying that they'll come after anyone. My understanding is that it's a 10% fine of your annual revenue. I think up to 5 million or something like that. So if you're a small business, a medium-sized business, that could really put you out of business. So, I can't speak to your personal business, but if you're only selling locally, you might not have to worry about it. But if you're thinking about expanding globally, then I would take it into serious consideration around how you're managing all your data. Cool. All right. Well, I think Ben and everybody's up next for a panel, huh? All right. Thanks, everybody.